Hey everyone, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Derrick, and I'm joined today by Ted Wiesen of BrainScratchComms and Johnny of SomeCallMeJohnny to talk once again about Ace Attorney. Yep, I finally finished Apollo Justice, so let's just dive right into this new generation of Ace Attorney games. So, yeah, we talked about this not too long ago with Trials and Tribulations, and I got through this a lot quicker than I got through Trials and Tribulations, though I'm not sure if that's a positive on the game or just me actually having time to play it this time around, because even before I started playing this, Apollo Justice is a very split viewpoint from a lot of fans. We have those that just do not like the game whatsoever, and those that actually really enjoy it and consider it just as good as the first three games. And so this is probably going to be a very interesting discussion. But real quick, before I give my opinions on the whole thing, what are you guys' thoughts on Apollo Justice? Ted, let's start with you because I think yours is the most obvious.
Well, I don't think you can really talk about anything about Apollo Justice real quick, because it is the most divisive game in the franchise, bar none. It's it's up there, I think, with games like Final Fantasy VIII or 13 in the amount of people that either just loathe it or adore it, and there seems to be very little in between. Personally, I don't like it. I think I've made that obvious in the other Ace Attorney discussions that we've done and other things I'm pretty sure I bring it up on Twitter a lot that there's a lot of reasons for why I don't like Apollo Justice, but most of them involve pretty deep spoilers, so I'll save that to when it becomes relevant, but I don't think it's as well written as the other games as the short version, I suppose.
Yeah. What about you, Johnny?
Visually and in terms of sound, I think Apollo Justice is great. I love the updated sprite work for the series. It feels like a true continuation of the Ace Attorney series for the DS, and the soundtrack is actually one of my favorites in the entire series. I can go back to it.
I don't get that personally.
Ted,
I know it's subjective.
If you object, you have to scream objection. If this series taught you nothing.
Hold it.
Well, okay. Well, hold on. Let me present some evidence then. Why don't we? The pursuit theme
penalty
for Apollo. Oh, damn it. The pursuit theme for Apollo Justice is almost the riff for the pursuit theme in Apollo Justice is almost identical to the one for Justice for All. They're almost exactly the same song. Not just in terms of tone, but they're entire melody bits that are almost copy and paste. And I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just a coincidence or what, but it's annoying. And also, I can't stand Apollo's theme song. I like it in Dual Destinies, but I can't stand it in this version.
On that, I will agree. I think it got the better remix in Dual Destinies. I don't mind it so much in the original game, but I love, say, the Pursuit theme in Apollo Justice.
Even though it's a ripoff.
Hey, I like Mortal Kombat. It kind of reminds me of the film soundtrack for a second. Yes, Motorcycle, I do agree.
Okay, but what do you think about the one song that you hear 20 million times in Case 3, though?
Which, we're going to get to that.
Yeah. Give us time, because I got things to say about that.
Yeah, we're going to say, but just to quickly wrap this up, the Pursuit theme, I think it's called Trance. It's pretty much this game's investigation music, or when you're looking for a clue. I love that theme a lot. There's a lot of it's a high batting average for me in terms of soundtrack, and I can listen to it day in and day out. But that's just the music, because as for the game, I'm of a similar mindset with Ted. I picked up Apollo Justice. Me and Ted did an Ace Attorney retrospective at BrainScratch, and I admitted that after the original trilogy, I skipped Apollo Justice. Not because of all the disdain for it. It was more as Dual Destinies was immediately available to me, so I skipped Apollo Justice, played Dual Destinies, and then went back to Apollo Justice. And I got problems with this game. If not because of the writing, it's because of the characterization. And why should I like these people? And that goes for a lot of characters in this game. And I don't think I'm giving an adequate reason to get invested, both physically and emotionally. But we can talk about that case by case as we'll get started here, I suppose. So, shall we?
Yeah, well, let me just get, as a overall thoughts on Apollo Justice, I think there's the best way I can compare it to is it's a novel where it's one of those like novels where you read it at the time and it gets you really invested and keeps you interested in the characters and what's going to happen next and keeps you just going along with it in the moment. But as soon as you stop and start looking over what you've went through and what the characters have done and everything that you've seen, you start to question a lot of motivations and things that happens and are like, it starts to kind of fall apart. And that's the major difference to me from Apollo Justice to the original trilogy, because you could look over the original trilogy and there'd be a few things here and there that didn't match up. But for the most part, you could still point to certain moments and be like, oh, that was a brilliant little thing, or this worked up into that quite well. And in Apollo Justice, it didn't quite have that. But there are still strong moments in here that I did legitimately enjoy. But I think by far the worst part of this game is Case 3. Just I have so many issues with that case, and we'll get to what you guys think is the worst part. And I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of interesting ones, but don't expect too many positives here. I will say though, I don't think it's a terrible game. I think it's just problematic, and I that's sort of where I stand with it.
It's interesting looking at perspective when it comes to Apollo Justice, because general rule of thumb, obviously it doesn't apply to every situation, but as a general rule of thumb, you tend to find that a lot of the people who tend to really dislike Apollo Justice are people who had been playing Ace Attorney since the game started coming out, and people who tend to be a little bit kinder on it usually picked it up a little bit later, maybe after the fact or a couple of years later. So it's
it's their first Ace Attorney game, and they don't know any better.
Well, not even just that. Like people who might have picked up the game, like played all the games in a row, like one after the other, and go straight from TNT into Apollo Justice a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I think because a huge part of why a lot of people have issues with this game is the fact that it gigantically cuts the status quo to pieces and effectively undoes Trials and Tribulation's very happy ending by having Phoenix be immediately disbarred. I understand that. That's part of my issues with it too, but it's a little bit more deeper than that for me. It probably won't surprise you to hear, Derrick, that originally, I believe Shu Takumi did work on this one. He's the guy who directed the first 3 Ace Attorney games. Originally, Apollo Justice was going to be much farther removed from Phoenix Wright. It was going to have its own cast of characters. Phoenix was over. They were going to do their new thing in this same universe. But due to executive meddling from Capcom, they wanted Phoenix in there more because of brand recognition, basically. And so that's what led to a lot of the less popular decisions, like making Phoenix a bum and all this other things.
Yeah, so, we have to have the main character from the original trilogy in here in some regard, but we still want the focus to be on our new character here, Apollo Justice. The most American name I've ever heard in my life. God bless America.
Yeah, seriously.
But they weren't sure how to do it, and they figured, well, we got to have Phoenix Wright sometime in here. So you know what? Disbar him, make him a bum, have him follow around like a hobo that wants change. But remember, this is still an Apollo Justice game.
You can tell that the game is split between what it wants to do and what you can tell that they're being a gun's held up to the back of their head and being tie in Phoenix Wright into this or else. And so that they want to do their own thing, but they can't really, and it's kind of an awkward mix. Because I'm not against the idea of having a new cast of characters. In fact, considering how tightly the original trilogy ended, I'd be all for it. Have cameos and stuff. That's fine. Emma Skye being the detective, even if the game were less connected to Phoenix Wright, I'd be totally okay with that. still being the case, but the way that they tied in the old the old games is, I don't like it.
Well, yeah, let's get into I mean, we've already kind of entered spoiler territory, but yeah, let's go ahead. From here on out, we're going full on spoilers. So let's bring up the big elephant in the room, and as you guys have already talked about, Phoenix and his disbarment, and that is something that caught me completely off guard. But because I knew he became a bum in this game, but I wasn't sure why he was a bum, and so to see the disbarment was shocking to say the least. But I was also willing to give it a chance. It's like, okay, tell me how this happened. Tell me why this worked. Because here's the thing, I still saw a lot of potential with this, because when Phoenix was doing his thing in the first trial in Turnabout Trump, you could just see how much he'd grown as a lawyer. Yes. Like, he had that full confidence. He was just like, he had just like this cool air to him. Like, yeah, he's a bum, but he's like so confident that he just doesn't even need to try anymore. He's just that good. And
he's gotten a degree cynical in the last 7 years because of what happened. But I think I agree. It makes it. I would say, for as much as we may dislike the act of Phoenix Wright getting disbarred, it is a catching plot point. Mm-hmm. Like, if you followed the original Ace trilogy, you want to know, how the hell did this happen? Why the hell did this happen? In that way, it's effective. Now it's a matter of whether or not you're willing to accept the reasoning.
Mm. And to be fair, I actually do accept the reasoning. I don't have many issues with it. Now you guys might. Now you guys
watch out, he's gonna blow.
Yeah,
because I do not agree with that at all, Derrick.
I will say. Now, granted, I'm going off this relatively fresh, so I haven't had time to digest this as much as you guys have, and I still have, my opinion has kind of lowered in that bit of time. But other than the one thing that makes it kind of suspicious, and like Phoenix really is. Okay, him being set up to be disbarred, that works for me. The way he fell for it, that's what falls apart.
The setup, yes. The reasoning, no. No.
Well, let's go case by case, shall we? Because because like one thing about Apollo Justice is that it seems to have a lot of good ideas that it just immediately fucks up. Screws up. Namely, like you start off the case, and if you've played Ace Attorney by this point, you know how the first case is gonna go. You got your really obvious one witness who's the bad guy, and you cross-examine them, and then they're guilty. Mm-hmm. It was a really cool twist that the immediately super obvious witness was not the bad guy. I think that is actually kind of cool, that they did try to do that, because it is a nice little twist on how it normally works.
And I did like the fact that the person that was convicted, that Christoph, who's defense attorney, and up to this point, every defense attorney we've seen so far, granted we haven't seen that many, are good guys. They're typically not as bad as prosecutors that we typically see, or less, or as corrupt. And to have a corrupt defense attorney is interesting.
Yeah.
If it would be interesting if they did it better, though, because Christoph is a hot mess, and that we can get more into that in Case 4, because honestly, I think a lot of Case 4 diminishes Case 1, because you find out what's Christoph's motivation, or his lack of motivation, as we'll be getting to, and it makes Case 1 seem much more underwhelming in hindsight. Not to mention, I think Case 1 has what is probably my least favorite action from Phoenix in the entire series, in which he forges evidence, which is wrong. Phoenix Wright should not forge evidence. That is wrong. I'm sorry. That bloody ace just makes me really, really upset, because it didn't need to exist, I think. It's just like, oh, we need to get... Especially considering that what happens in later games where they're like, oh, the end doesn't justify the means, forging evidence is bad, and it makes Phoenix just come across as a gigantic hypocrite. And I know this is our new dark and edgy Phoenix, and he don't play by the rules, but he still has principles. He still has morals. He still believes in the law. And considering, like, that forging evidence not only got him disbarred, but, like, almost made Edgeworth commit suicide, you'd be thinking, oh, maybe he wouldn't do that, but he does. And it aggravates me. It's like watching Luke Skywalker kick a puppy, and then everybody just forgets about it in Return of the Jedi.
It's not only out of character, but the way he executes it is awfully weird too. Because again, I my apologies if we're like jumping from case to case here to talk about the overall plot here, but the act of him getting disbarred was him getting a piece of false evidence from a new character in this game, Trucy. And, you know, Trucy as a kid gave him a false piece of evidence, and how does he get false evidence to Apollo? He uses Trucy. I was like, isn't that a little on the nose, Phoenix, right?
Just a bit.
Yeah, it's like... there's using false evidence and then using the exact same methods that got you disbarred. It's like someone is very, very bitter. It just seems very strange to me how he would use the exact same methods of what got him disbarred in the first place.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Trucy? Because personally, up until Spirit of Justice Case 2, I've found her to be one of the least interesting characters in the series. Like, just ever.
Johnny, I'll let you go first.
I don't mind Trucy as an assistant, and her gimmick I think is pretty fun. You know, a magician. That's pretty cool. I think later games do more with it, because in this game she's pretty much the not Maya, and because I don't think they fully flesh out her backstory enough for me anyway. She's just more, I won't say one note, but she could have used more development, which is going to be a recurring complaint I have for this game. Mark my words, but she does no harm being there, I guess I should say, because she is pivotal to a point on how things play out, but we really don't get much out of her personally. And that's my only down point with her. Besides that, I think visually she's interesting, and she's cute. That's what I pretty much think about that.
I'd mostly agree. I have a very favorable opinion of Trucy on her own. She's cute. Yeah, she's the not Maya of this game, but I think she still works. She's different enough from Maya that I wasn't constantly comparing the two, because they do have kind of this, they're similar, but they also are quite different in many ways. And I found her entertaining in a lot of ways. Like, I was, it's juvenile, but I was sniggering like hell when she was always talking about her magic panties in Tragic Case 2. So, it was just this weird thing that they just had with her. And she was, I don't know, I found her to be interesting and fun and just kind of lovable in her own way. Now, granted, as Johnny said, they could do much more with her. They could flesh her out. It was very interesting how willing she was to accept a lot of things.
Yes.
Like, this girl gets over stuff quick. And it's something else. But on the whole, I think I did end up really liking Trucy, and I think she did become probably my favorite character in the game.
I just didn't feel that immediate chemistry you got between Phoenix and Maya in the first game, or even stuff like Gumshoe and Edgeworth in Investigations or something like that. It didn't feel like these two characters clicked together, and like eventually, like in Dual Destinies, like Apollo and Athena clicked for me, and that was a duo that I liked, but I didn't get that same kind of, these characters really do fit together, that I feel like befits the kind of team ups you get in this series.
Yeah. To be fair, the original Ace Attorney trilogy had 3 games to flesh that out. And if you were to compare, say, Phoenix's relation with Maya in the first Ace Attorney game compared to Apollo and Trucy's relation in Apollo Justice, would you say they're similar, neck and neck? One's better than the other?
No, I'd say even in the first game, Phoenix and Maya have more relationship and build up together, because aside from just the banter, you really do get the feeling that Phoenix and Maya care about each other, because Maya's willing to jump in front of a taser in order to get evidence for Phoenix, and Phoenix has that heartfelt goodbye at the end of case 4 where she's like waving her off at the train station and whatnot, and it's more well developed. You get why these two characters are stuck together, whereas in Apollo Justice, Apollo decides to work at Phoenix's law firm because reasons. He could have gone to literally any other law firm in town. And he's like, well, I might as well just hang out here. And Trucy just happens to be there, so she just happens to hang out.
They had a perfect opportunity with one element of this game that they do nothing with, that we'll talk more about when we get to case 4.
Yeah.
And it's a missed opportunity if there ever was one. It baffles me why they did nothing with it.
The thing they are missing with this game is there's no big connecting moment between Trucy and Apollo, unlike the first game with Phoenix and Maya, like that sort of companionship moment, and it never really.
Which we have Mia's death to thank for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone needed to die.
The best we get is her moment where she helps stall the trial thanks to Mr. Hat.
Yeah,
which was funny.
Oh, yeah.
I will admit that.
I enjoy Mr. Hat.
It was a funny gimmick. I did find myself missing him in Dual Destinies, I will admit, but I think that the lack of connection between Apollo and Trucy kind of extends to everything else, because he doesn't really have much connection to anybody in this game, which makes sense in terms of the plot, being as Apollo is basically Phoenix's I need someone to be in court right now monkey until the end of the game. But like, he doesn't really have any chemistry. Well, I was gonna say he doesn't really have any chemistry with Clavier, but I know how much Yaoi fan art is out there for the two of them, so I'm gonna take that one back.
Oh god.
It's just not as he doesn't have any intimate connections with any of the characters in this game, which is part of why I feel like it's so aimless.
It feels like he was Apollo Justice is someone they just dragged into the middle of a future Phoenix Wright story, and as such, he is a fish out of water who's really not the protagonist of this game.
No.
I mean, he is.
No.
He is, but he's not the central character.
In the two middle trials, he is. He's the protagonist, but it's case 2 and 3 is where he shines. It's
like the bigger picture of this game.
No. He has.
He ain't the central protagonist. No.
Yeah, not really. But as far as case 1 itself, like I mean, it was your standard startup. I mean, having Kristoff being the bad guy and all that stuff was interesting, and they immediately showed off some of the gimmicks you'll be working with. But I mean,
3D models.
Yeah,
fancy.
All the 3D models. Let's go into the thing. Let's see how this stuff works. And the big problem I had with it though is it felt like it was such a guiding hand. I felt like I barely had to figure anything out because it was just pointing me in the direction every time.
That's a common complaint with Apollo Justice. It's one of the easiest Ace Attorney games, except for parts which are really like there's specific moments that get really frustrating. But for on the whole, it's one of the easiest in the franchise, I would say. The only one I think that would be easier is probably Dual Destinies, because I don't think I made many mistakes at all in Dual Destinies when I'm thinking about it in hindsight.
We'll have to see, but let's continue on to Turnabout Corner, because you really don't get a good idea of Trucy at all in the first case. She just sort of shows up, hands you that evidence, and then leaves. And I was like, I've seen that girl in pictures. I don't know what anything she's about. She seems so serious, and then in the second case, she is silly as hell. I do like the setup for Turnabout Corner though, in that there's just what it seems like there's all these disconnected elements happening all on one night, and you sort of piece together how they all come together. But what do you guys think about Turnabout Corner?
You want to go first? Then?
I hate Walkie Kataki. That's it's the best. Okay, it's the best case in the game to me personally. It's not like there's nothing other than me not really caring about the characters as much, there's nothing really wrong with it. I hate Waki Kataki. He is an obnoxious defendant.
Yeah, which, to be fair, is the point of the character.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I have to like it.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Well, we're introduced to our prosecutor for this series in this game.
Clavier.
What did you guys think of Clavier? I mean, I love his theme song.
Yeah,
like,
great theme song.
I do love his theme song. I love it. We're talking about like sprite quality. I love his objection little guitar riff, which they kind of spam.
The air guitar.
Yeah, the air guitar essentially.
Yeah.
I think, I do like that. It's beautiful sprite work, and there is something a bit refreshing with having a prosecutor that doesn't want to whip you repeatedly or just be a general dick to you. Like, he's pretty cool beans, like, the entire game, which I understand removes some tension between the prosecutor versus the defense attorney, but I am interested to see what they can do with that sort of character. And though, in my opinion, he doesn't have as much say in this game as, say, Edgeworth would have in the original trilogy, or how even Franziska or Godot. It's still interesting to see what they can do with a prosecutor who's not out to cut your throat in the courtroom.
He has no major beef against Apollo, which is actually kind of strange considering, he put his brother in prison. And I think...
See, but it's fine. Let me do the air guitar for you.
And I think that's the thing that they kind of dropped the ball with Clavier's character. And it seems like he just does not care. Like, we never get a sense of what what these brothers are like or how they feel about each other until the last one. And it's like you kind of get a sense that he's always been in the shadow of Christoph, but it still wasn't enough. I was very curious about that relationship, and it feels like it should have affected things and should have made him more antagonistic to Apollo, but by case 3, he's pretty cool with him.
I feel like the Gavins on the whole are one of Apollo Justice's biggest missed opportunities, and part of that is just I think Christoph goes to jail too early. I don't think he should have been caught in case 1. One of the things that's frustrating about Ace Attorney sometimes is they're like, oh, you've got to prove who the real killer is, otherwise you can't prove your client innocent, even though that's not how court works at all. That's a nitpick that you can put through the entire series, except for Dual Destinies, actually. They kind of undo that at one point. But, I think what would have made Apollo Justice a much more interesting game would be if Christoph was your mentor throughout the entire time, and you didn't get the idea that he was, like, there would be foreshadowing, obviously, because that's just good storytelling, but it would have been a much more interesting game if Christoph was a constant presence throughout, like, he was still mentoring you or whatever. You could see what that tension was between him and Clavier, and thus Clavier and you, and it would kind of make all of those pieces go together, whereas, like, Clavier just, oh yeah, you put my brother in prison. Yeah, okay. I agree that it is cool to have a prosecutor that doesn't want to, smack you in the face. But I feel like it's better for, like, a break as opposed to setting up new things. If that makes sense. Like, this is the kind of person that you would have kind of in downtime between other trials. Like, Clavier is the kind of prosecutor that if Phoenix Wright were more of a series that had more than one prosecutor per trial, Clavier is the perfect kind of prosecutor for a case 2 or a case 3 where the stakes aren't as high and he's just kind of chill with what's going on. But in situations where things are supposed to be more tense, he just doesn't feel like he fits. I feel like is the biggest thing. And
now that I think about it, probably would have meant a little more, because we talked about how Christoph being the prime suspect and the committer of the crime in the first case, it would have had more. I agreed that it would have had more impact if it was held off till later, because since we know nothing about him or Apollo or the relationship together as a mentor and the attorney, it doesn't have that same impact than you would have if the game took the time to flesh out both characters.
There should have been a 5th trial, I think, because a fifth case, because there should have been a slightly different first case where you sort of got attached to Kristoff in the same way that you got attached to Mia. But the difference in case 2 is Kristoff goes to jail, Mia dies, you know.
Yeah, and it would have gave Clavier an interesting little characterization where he could be antagonistic to Apollo for mysterious reasons that you're not sure of, because he knows the truth of what kind of a dick his brother Kristoff is, which will probably get him indicted for being accomplice to murder by the end of case 5. But I think that would have been a way to have more interesting character interaction between the main prosecutor and the defense attorney. But of course, we can spend 3 hours talking about what they could have done
the maybes.
to do this or do this.
Yeah, because like I was just about to get onto a rant about how much more interesting the relationship between Apollo and Phoenix would be if Apollo had basically 2 different mentors going on during the game. But again, like if you wanted to rewrite Apollo Justice, that like would be an undertaking. But it would also that's what's frustrating about the game, is that you could see so many different branches where it could have ended up being really cool, I think is one of the things.
Yeah. And you're frustrated because they don't go that way.
Yeah. But trying to get back on topic, which we've had to do a lot for this discussion, I've noticed.
This makes me sick.
Yeah.
The other big character reintroduced in case 2 is Emma Skye, who... What did you guys feel about Emma? Because, she does get a very drastic change of personality in Apollo Justice.
It's weird to see her so grumpy. Now, granted, I think it's been a year since I've played the original Ace Attorney, so it's been a while since I've encountered Emma and experienced all of that, but it is kind of funny just how grumpy she is until she can do her science stuff, which is kind of fun, and also helps make her different from Gumshoe, because Gumshoe was always kind of a pleasant guy. Like, yeah, he would get angry and stuff, but he would just get pleasant really quickly, and she's kind of the opposite, where she's mostly grumpy or has issues, but, you know, get her talking about science, which is what she really wants to do, and she's happy, and, you know, she offers up some different things to do during the investigation portion, since you don't have the Magatama anymore.
It is kind of mean, though, and depressing because my reaction to Emma Skye returning was like, hey, Emma's back, because I did enjoy her character in Rise from the Ashes in Ace Attorney 1. But, one, she didn't get her job that she wanted to. She wanted to be a part of the forensics department, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
And she didn't get that role, and now she's angry about that, you know, because she loves science. She just wants to be able to fingerprint the shit out of everything. As much as she can, and you know that's an endearing character trait. I do like that, but she didn't get the job, so now we have to suffer for that because she nags about it all the damn time in the game. And I don't know, it's like coming from the last game she was in, where she had to, you know, help her sister out with not getting charged with murder and dealing with all the Damon Gant stuff. I was like, this girl's been through enough already. Just give her the damn forensics department job, please. And we don't get that here. And it's just kind of... I take it a little mean-spirited, but regardless, I am happy to see her here as the Gumshoe role. And... I guess the only other thing I think that kind of runs the course a bit too early is her little running gag with the snakoos. Yeah. The snackoos. She's constantly munching on them, and then she just throws them at you. And it's like, all right.
Hey, for snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take it.
Yeah, thanks. Like, I don't have to eat for a whole week.
I do like how she has this like immediate like dislike of Clavier. That was sort of interesting. Like, she just didn't like how his this glimmery or something like personality or some
glimmerous.
Yeah, glimmerous personality.
She calls him a glimmerous fop all the time, even though glimmerous is not a word. But then again, she's a scientist, not a linguist. So
yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting to see a detective just not enjoy the prosecution whatsoever, and how she is closer to the defense, and she's not, you know, completely mean, like, or, you know, I can't feel too bad for her because essentially she is the forensics expert. She just doesn't have the position. I don't know. I don't mind Emma so much. Now, granted, this is my first time experiencing it. I'm curious to see how she grows or does anything different, or she just sort of stays in the same sort of role, kind of like Gumshoe did. Just some changes here and there. But overall, I enjoy Emma's return, and I was told by people that she does get kind of mean, but I didn't find her super mean like after the second case. Like by case 3 and 4, she was pretty on your side. She was pretty okay on your side.
Yeah, she has no beef with Apollo, I think, is the thing. I just wish that because if you go back to play the original Ace Attorney, like, Gumshoe isn't inherently friendly to Phoenix in that game either.
No.
Like, it takes him until it basically takes Gumshoe until Phoenix takes up Edgeworth's defense to really warm up to him. So that's fine. I just wish that there was that same kind of camaraderie, I suppose, between, and again, that's, I think, one of the biggest things that's missing in Apollo Justice is you don't really get the sense that there's any real camaraderie between most of the characters, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that applies to Emma somewhat as well.
The one thing I was really hoping for when she returned is I wanted to see her and Phoenix interact again, and you never get that.
Yeah, like, it's
Not
implied
somewhat in case 4, but it's
very
mostly implication.
Yeah, it's so minor.
Yeah.
It feels like a missed opportunity. If you're going to have Phoenix there and you're going to bring Emma back, have the two interact.
Yep, there goes that word again, missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, a lot of people, that's one of the biggest problems that people had with Apollo Justice is that there's not enough of the old stuff there, which I get. It's just like you kind of wonder, like, what the hell was Edgeworth doing when Phoenix was getting disbarred and whatnot, or like why? But it's an element of the game wanting to focus on Apollo. Is like you can't see Phoenix and Emma hanging out at the bar or whatever, getting drinks. You have to focus on Apollo doing cases, which is sometimes less interesting, unfortunately. So
we should just have a drinking mini game. Phoenix hangs out in the bar with old characters.
To answer the Edgeworth question, FXX was having a 600-hour Steel Samurai marathon, and he just couldn't be bothered.
Damn.
But the case itself, I enjoyed Turnabout Corner. The mysteries was interesting, and of course, immediately the cute girl was the bad guy. But I did like the twist they took on it, like where the doctor was not innocent whatsoever, and tried to kill her first. That was an interesting take, and to just have her happen to wake up while all this is going on, so she could shoot him while in the thing was different, to say the least. Like I like the twists and turns of this case, and yeah, Walkie is not exactly the most appealing defendant, but I don't think he's as bad as the defendant in case 3. I actually prefer Walkie.
Oh, I hate him too. Don't get me wrong. I hate Machi more.
Yeah.
But Walkie is just irritating, and he's so unhelpful too. Is the big thing. Like he
felt like it's going back to Phoenix during case 1 of Trials and Tribulations. Like somebody so love-struck, or at one point love-struck, and another point just so antagonistic to everything and everybody.
Yeah, but for different reasons. This kid is like, yeah, I'm young. What are you gonna do about it? And it's like, yeah, he's right. But it does. One of my favorite visual gags in this case is actually involves his father, because they run a noodle business, and the father has such an imposing Don Corleone-esque appearance, like the big black shadows on his eyes that you can't see, is like staring into the abyss. And then end of the game, he lifts them up, and it turns out to be really thick eyebrows. He has these beady ass eyes.
Yeah, these puppy dog eyes.
Legitimately funny.
Yeah, and I like his mother. Walkie's mother is great.
She's probably probably my favorite witness in the game too. It's just like she's got the broom, and then it turns out to be a sword, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, she just does
then
not.
You realize
mess
we're playing Yakuza 7.
We need more baby tossing. Oh shoot! But yeah, no, I did enjoy Walkie's family quite a bit, and just the interaction. Plus, I will say it felt suitably tragic to have Walkie have that problem with his heart and have that bullet, and just that was quite interesting to have him basically just be so close to death, and that's the whole reason she was with him and doing all that. I like the particulars of the case were very interesting and kept me intrigued. I liked the little bit of drama they could wring out of that, and of course it kind of ends with a happy ending because of finding the best doctors and all that stuff and getting legit money. It all kind of works. It has a nice arc to it all, and that's why I ended up not minding Walkie as much as I think you do, Ted.
Yeah. It's not tied down by it's not tied down, I feel, by the overarching plot of Apollo Justice. It just wants to do its own thing. So we don't have to worry about how it exactly fits with which normally that could be a complaint with Ace Attorney, is like, oh, this is the filler case. This is like totally the filler case. It has nothing to do with anything else, and it's just, it doesn't be here. But this
Why
is
are there
the
clowns?
only yeah. Who likes this guy? But in this game's case, I think is the exception to the rule, because it's not tied to the overarching plot, and I like it for that. So I just want to have this little sidetrack here, which can be said similarly to Case 3, but
Case
except
3.
not really, because Case. Okay, so you said you thought Case 3 was your least favorite case in the game, Derrick.
Yeah.
I agree with you sometimes. Whether or not I think Case
Sometimes.
Whether or not I think Case 3 or Case 4 is the worst case in the game depends on my mood and how lenient I'm feeling towards Apollo Justice's general plot at any given point. Because I will say Case 3 is probably one of the most nonsensical Ace Attorney cases in the whole series. Probably only rivaled by 5-2 in terms of just the plan not making any sense at all. Like,
to this day, still my least favorite case in the entire series.
I completely agree. I was just getting ready to say
series.
that this is worse to me than Turnabout Big Top.
I don't get how anybody can hate Big Top more than... Because Big Top was annoying, but at least it made sense and there were some elements of tragedy to it. This is just asinine.
It was also much shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on, John. I'm not sure we can track the time yet. Let's play the video again to make sure.
No! Stop it. Enough of the damn video. I'm impressed that you can do CG.
Guitar! Oh, with Clavier's orange skin?
Yes. It was he went to the tanning booth that day, that's all.
Turnabout Serenade is
awful.
Yeah, thank you.
It's just
the script had a blank here. I wasn't sure what to say.
Yeah, it just from top to bottom, I can find so little to redeem about that case, and just the constant lying from everybody involved, the asinine reason to have that Machi is the suspect, and the obvious reason he should not be the suspect.
Which they
that goddamn gun.
don't even pay attention to.
Not once. All you have to do
you don't
is
even get.
All you have to do to get him off the case is Your Honor, I present the gun. I don't see your point. I present the boy. I don't see your point. What are you not seeing here? He should be his arm should be ripped off by the way you're describing this gun.
The bad guy is a police officer, presumably with firearms training. He sprains his shoulder shooting that goddamn thing. And so the 11-year-old boy is gonna be totally fine. Or not to or no gunpowder residue on his hand or anything.
Yeah.
And
he not only she shot the gun, no injury.
Oh yeah.
And dragged that probably 250 plus pound man up into that stage.
Mm-hmm.
No help. That's fine, because
And
he is Superman after all.
And he was also able to get his gun because that gun belonged to I forget his name. It was a great pun, but that was
Romaine Lettuce.
Yeah, Romaine Lettuce.
Oh, I get it now. Okay.
Wait, you never got that pun before?
You never got it.
I
don't feel so bad about. I don't feel bad anymore about Luke at me.
Okay. I have yet to figure out the pun with Machi Tobai though.
It's probably something music related because he's the pianist.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah, Romaine Lettuce, there's no way that Machi should have been the one suspected. It made no sense. And
Logic goes out the door.
He's the only one who can fit in the event. so he must be guilty.
Except we prove that Lamar. Oh, how do you pronounce her name?
I think it's supposed to be Frenchy, so like Lemewa.
The funny thing is, I had a podcast with Ash today, and he figured out the actual pronunciation for her, and it's. I think Lemoyoye? I forget. Whatever. La. I'm gonna call her La.
Yeah. Hey, Lammy.
Lammy.
So, one of the interesting things about Apollo Justice is, at the time that it was being written, Japan was looking into changing its court system and applying a jury system at the point, which we'll get into more with Case 4. Now, I believe we've talked about this before, but just if we haven't, Phoenix Wright has always been intended to be a satire of the Japanese court system, like from day one, because a lot of it doesn't make sense, and it's meant to poke fun at that in many different ways. One of the things that I liked about the original trilogy is that even as a dumb American, I could play the game and have fun with it, and like all of that social commentary could go over my head, and I could still enjoy the game. It was subtle. It wasn't in your face. With Apollo Justice, they take that social commentary and they rub it in your face until it's blue, basically, because it's just like, oh man, our legal system sure is bad that we can't prove anybody who's not guilty if we don't have a different killer. Man, our legal system sure needs a turnaround. Yep, that's Suri. I wonder how we could do it. Maybe with the jury. That would be great. And it just leads to stuff that just doesn't make sense in order to prove a point. And I'm not trying to say that games shouldn't prove a point, because they absolutely can, but they should also prove their point well, I think. And if your political message is coming to the expense of the logic of the piece, I think that you need to rework your writing to make your message known without it, A, coming off as so preachy, and B, not making sense, basically, because that's where most of the issues with, like, oh, but Machi has to be guilty because we've got this one evidence, so we gotta prosecute him and whatnot. It's yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know how much sense I made there, but then again, it's probably more coherent than the prosecution's case, so whatever.
Not only that, can I remember? Cause it has been a while since I played Apollo Justice. Actually, it haven't since the retrospective Ted and I did a couple of years back. But was there ever a fingerprint analysis done on the gun?
I can't remember.
If the fact that you guys can't immediately answer yes just means this case got a hell of a lot stupider.
I can't remember.
They might have hand waved it or something, or maybe like
he's a child. He doesn't have fingerprints.
It might have been wiped off or something. I'm not sure. It's so weird. And the thing is that I think what frustrated me even more is, like, even when you finally get the bad guy in this one, and I can't even remember his name, just Shark Hair, that's what I ended up calling
Shark. Oh no, you mean Dick Hair?
No, I focused on the shark motif because I'm used to the crazy pompadours of Japanese gangsters or whatever.
That thing's
or tough
4
guys.
feet long.
That's long. Dedication, Ted.
So yeah. Like, you finally nail him, and I felt no satisfaction out of it. It was just like, oh, by the way, we can totally convince Machi to finally talk about this and explain why he did all this and get you fingered for the crime. Now that he knows he won't get immediately killed for revealing all this stuff. Oh no, better confess. And it's just like, oh, not even that. He just sort of freaks out and it's over. I'm like, wait, what just happened? It's over?
Yeah. And that is a victim of the next thing I hate about this case. It's the pace. The pacing of this case is god awful. Because we mentioned the video again. How many times did we watch that damn video?
In full, I think 3 or 4. In parts, add 5, 6, maybe 8 more to that.
It's a long video too. It's at least like 2.5 minutes long, and you got to watch the same thing over and over. And I'm not a fan of the song too, although I don't know how much is that having to listen to the video over and over again, or the quality of the song itself.
Might be the latter.
If maybe it's just
the step ladder.
Yeah.
I was gonna make that joke. But man, yeah, it's just tedious, and you don't even really get to do anything interesting like the video in Rise from the Ashes, as far as I can remember, because I actually liked the Blue Badger video in Rise from the Ashes, but that's only because you used it for one day of one trial, and it was over quickly.
And
even within that.
And you get the soundboard with this one, but it's still drop all the others, find the one that has its problem, present it, whatever. There's never anything that difficult about it. So, yeah,
it's bogged down by its pacing and the fact that it's such an idiotic plot. It's such an idiotic plot.
Derrick brought this up earlier, but I have to agree with him. I hate how everyone lies to you. There's not a single trustworthy character in this case, because both Lammy, because both Lammy and Machi are lying to you constantly. First they can't speak English, then they can, or they can't speak English and then they can't, and then he's blind. No, he's actually not blind because she's actually blind, and there's no reason for all of that, especially considering that I'm your goddamn lawyer. I'm trying to get you off of murder.
Yeah, I can't speak because I'll get tracked down by the Borginians and they'll be crazy about this stuff. And I thought, like, there'd be something there. But yeah, Machi was just so unlikable. Like, one, he was unlikable when I started learning the truth about him. Two, I couldn't connect with him because he couldn't speak the language. So I was like, how am I supposed to connect with this character? What am I supposed to do with this character? And I was sort of left, I don't know, baffled. Like, I cannot, there's nothing for me to latch onto in this case.
And you have to care about the defendant in a game like this because he's the reason why you're up there in the first place. If you don't care that he goes to jail, why even bother showing up?
Yeah, the reason why I don't really like Turnabout Big Top is because I don't like any of the witnesses. Anything like that, and this is a degree worse than that because I not only just don't like anybody here, I just don't feel interested in what's going on, and I'm bewildered by how everything is playing out in this case. It's like, we're seriously doing this, right? Because we're not stopping and thinking about this. We're really not. We're just going to drag. Okay, here we go.
Let's put it this way. The pacing is so bad for this case that Ash and his wife have been playing through the Ace Attorney games together. They've been sort of, helping each other out, I guess, experiencing the stories because they are, fun and all whatnot. And they've been on Apollo Justice. In the time it took them to finally get through Case 3 of Apollo Justice, I completely played through all of Trials and Tribulations and Apollo Justice myself.
Oh my God!
They just
Jesus Christ!
They could not get. I think I might be slightly off, and that I got through the second half. When I finally got back to Trials and Tribulations, and then all of Apollo Justice. But still, that long of a time, and they just were slogging through this case. They just could not get any interest in it. So. Yeah, the pacing is just bad. The mystery is bad. The characters are bad. It just does not work.
No, it doesn't. Since there really isn't any way... Like, I want to bring this up before we get to the ending. Apollo's perceived mechanic.
Yeah, I guess we should talk about that beforehand.
Yeah.
It's less interesting than the Cyclops.
Yeah.
One, because there's really no harm in using it. Like, there's
no
unlike the Cyclops, there's no punishment for getting it wrong, so it's just a pixel hunt for the most part. And I mean, okay, Apollo's got to have his own little thing, I guess, but it's more of a distraction more than a gameplay element because I don't feel it takes that long to find out what the problem is.
Yeah, and
I disagree. I part of why I don't like it is that I feel like it takes forever because the text scrolls so slowly, and you have to scan over every single part of each witness's body during like every individual word to find the part where they're nervous and then present it.
The only one that took me a while to figure out that just kept going. I knew which one it had to be, but I could not find the space, and I just was not noticing it. Was with I'm forgetting the reporter. I'm blanking on his name, and I like this character so much.
Spark Brushel.
But
wait, you like Spark Brushel? Out.
I found him. I found him.
Get out. I know this is your channel. Get out.
We'll get to him, but yeah. But noticing Spark Brushel's sweaty armpits took me forever.
But you should be grateful for that, personally.
Yeah, I guess so.
You just want to stare at his magnificent face.
Yeah, my biggest problem with perceived mechanic was I didn't ever have to try to determine, it's like, nothing about my evidence matches up with anything here, and I know there's something off about this, but I just can't see it. Oh, maybe I should try to use perceive instead. No, it's like I start up this round of questioning, and immediately the bracelet is activated. It's like, really?
Yeah. It's another degree of I guess handhold. That's why I call it a distraction, because
I mean, it fits with their explanation of
things moving along.
It fits with how their explanation of how the power works, so it makes sense that subconsciously Apollo would notice that there's something off about this particular set of questioning. But it's still,
it is a thing that happens in real life too. Like if you're trained enough, you can see people's I think they're called micro expressions in psychology, where like if people are lying for a split second, their face will change, and it's almost unnoticeable for most people. So it makes sense. It's just, it also doesn't really make sense because, you're nervous. I'm kind of testifying in court here, buddy. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the way the bracelet works in game, if I remember correctly, just for a future discussion for later down the road, but the way the bracelet works is that it's just snug enough so that, because Apollo has an innate ability where if he senses that someone is lying or hiding something, his muscle twitches, right? Is that what it says? Like,
yeah.
He has a slight muscle spasm on his arm, and the bracelet is snug enough so that when that happens, it rubs against the bracelet and it warns him that the person in question is lying.
Yes.
Is that how it's worked?
Yeah. Roughly, okay. Yeah.
I want to remember that for another game in the series later down the road. But it's a minor thing. Not really spoilerific, but okay. Anyway, I just want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, that's essentially how it works, and it's fine. It's his own gimmick, and I'll take it. But it didn't completely annoy me, only that one time. But it also didn't do anything like, oh, this is really cool. Like when I encountered the Cyclops in Justice for All, I'm like, oh, this is really neat. This is a nice way to change up how investigations work. So you're not just going place to place to place. You have to actually find it and bring some of the court into the investigation portion, which I enjoyed. So, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been cooler if it was like I said this about stuff like the Mood Matrix or the Insights in Spirit of Justice, but it's not an extra tool to make cross-examination more interesting. It's a mini-game. It pops up, it's time to, when you see that bracelet pop up, it's time to use the bracelet.
Yeah.
It's not like you can combine the bracelet with presenting evidence or pressing in interesting ways. It's just there for its own sake, really. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, case 4.
Ooh.
So.
Okay. I mean, where do you begin?
Oh, you want to know where I want to begin? What the hell are the paintings for? What do they do?
Good.
Why are they there?
Yeah, that's a very good point. What is the point of having him observe all this? Just the fact that he's been keeping an eye on Phoenix all this time, yet this also applies to Apollo for some reason?
They're never, you have to do a really long science minigame for those goddamn paintings. You have to do it 3 times to get all 3 paintings. You never present them once. They're and they take up 3 individual spaces in your inventory too. So they're just kind of sitting there being like, okay, you got to be used for something. They're never used for anything.
No.
I don't know if they just forgot that they had them, or it got cut, or what. But it just, the reason why I wanted to bring it up first is because it has nothing to do with anything, and that's part of the problem. So, yeah.
Okay, how do I even get this? Okay, let's start with the defendant, I guess, and get into our, I guess, just how we got into this case, which is Phoenix tells us we're trying out a new type of jurist system, and we're going into this blind, yet Phoenix got to pick the trial, so everything, of course, is connected because of that. And our defendant is this young girl who's been locked away with her father for most of the time, and he's a famous artist that's been poisoned. Okay, I'll take that. It's an interesting setup, and apparently it's a open and shut case, but of course it isn't, because this is Phoenix Wright we're talking about. I think the setup works. I think it's interesting how they presented everything and got you like, oh, how is this more complicated? How is this not as simple as you might think? And then you start getting the details and find out about Misham and all this other stuff, and all of a sudden the counterfeit bits coming in, the forgery, I should say. So I don't think this is a bad setup.
I don't mind Vera, I will say. She is, like, it's nice to just, like, you need to open her up. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not the right way to say it. She needs to open herself up to being a friendly person. Yeah. Okay, there we go.
She's different. She's different than Machi. Like, I was worried she was going to be like Machi again, but no, she actually evolves and changes.
Yeah, she's endearing. I also like that she, like, draws a happy face when she's happy on her little sketch pad. That's cute. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind her, and the first half of the case isn't terrible either, because, again, like you said, it is an interesting setup. Like, you know, where it's just like, this guy's been forging stuff, and, you know, why would somebody want to kill her? How do you prove that he was killed without her doing it? And it's an interesting setup for the case, and the first half isn't bad. It's just, as soon as you end that first trial, things immediately start to not be good at all, I think, personally.
As I said before,
it's one of those.
Oh, go ahead, John.
It kind of goes into what Derrick was saying at the beginning of this discussion about what we feel about Apollo Justice as a whole, where it's one of those, oh, that's interesting, and then you stop and think. Mm-hmm. It's like you stop and think, and you're just like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know,
you can't present.
It dominoes really quickly just by stopping and thinking about how this or this is supposed to work, and I don't see how any of this was supposed to work, or it was so. My problem with Case 4 was just how confusing it was in how we got to where we were going for the finale.
You're talking about the I forget what the system is called.
The Mason system.
The Mason system.
Yeah.
Can I let me ask? Just a quick question here. Mm-hmm. Not a quick question, but just a quick sentence for the discussion. So, Phoenix Wright is the developer of this system, right?
And Emma helps him work on it.
Emma helps him work on it. But the purpose of the Mason system is to have a jury decide a verdict based off of common sense and what both the defense attorney and the prosecution have displayed during the trial. What was Phoenix Wright's reasoning for developing the Mason system?
To have a super cool gameplay mechanic for the final case.
No.
It was to prosecute. It was to indict Christoph.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically.
It was. So, isn't that bias?
Maybe just a little bit. I mean, granted, he's right, but it's also problematic.
Yes.
Phoenix has never come across as vengeful before, and I mean, granted, nobody's ever taken away his bar license before, so, you know, I can imagine him getting pissed, but so much of Phoenix's actions in this game seem so out of character. And, like, I used to defend some of Phoenix's characterization in Apollo Justice, because in terms of the way he talks, it's basically kind of like if his blue thinking text were just said out loud because he doesn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
Which I think
I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that too. It's just the bigger picture things, like him seeming so vengeful. It's like I can see him, like, this time it's personal. Like you get that with things like Dahlia or Von Karma, where it's people have hurt his friends and maybe have hurt him by extension. But it's unsettling seeing Phoenix being that vengeful because like this guy fucked me up, I'm gonna put him in jail, and it's not in a good way, I think.
The Mason system was developed to use a jury system. However, we all know that Phoenix also developed it so that he can finally get Kristoff for what he did years ago. He's the one telling the jurors how this system works, and pretty much how the flashback trial works and how everything is. It's simulation, which I didn't get at first. I, honest to God, thought we were time traveling with how we presented things. But do we? When do we ever in real life, even in a video game sense, use a simulation to determine, hey, this might would have happened if we presented this to her at this time? Because we're communicating with the young Vera, right, in the Mason system. And we need to determine who's the person that is intimidating her, making her silent or something like that. And we present Kristoff. What reasoning do we have to blame Kristoff at that point in time?
Sixth Sense, maybe? But, I mean... See, the way I interpret it, rather than virtual reality or simulation was, this is basically, here are Phoenix's notes. Here is everything that he discovered about the case.
Who has a vendetta against Kristoff.
Exactly, which is still problematic, but it helps explain why we have all these other things and we're not doing an Assassin's Creed, like, you're distinct because you didn't follow exactly what we're supposed to do, even though, but that's basically the way the game's supposed to go. It's weird, but I will say, in the moment, I was going with it the entire time. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and there's not too many moments where things I should have presented here should have, take from the future and present in the past. And so it's like, okay, it kind of works like that. And the one
I'm gonna disagree because I remember going back. I remember my first playthrough of Apollo Justice. I spent forever in the Mason system section because I just didn't know what to do. It didn't feel clear at all because like each room in both the past and present has like a solution, and you have to get to the end, and then it'll like fade to grayscale. It's just like, you solved the room, yeah, good job, go to the next one. And some of the stuff is really, really obtuse, I remember, and I got frustrated with it really quickly, I think. On top of it, not making much sense, and I think it would have been better if they just presented it as Phoenix's notes, because they do have that thing where they say like, oh, he hit a camera in the button that Emma gave him. Like, that's cool. Okay, just have it be him showing video of his investigation to the jury. Okay, like that would have been better, I think. Than,
we gotta be sure. Virtual reality is the only answer.
Magic.
It looks cool. It looks cooler, but
my only moment of the only thing of praise I have for Case 4, besides the interesting witnesses and all that, is the flashback case, which I know is the moment we don't want to talk about because it's what ultimately leads to Phoenix's disbarment, which we as much as I'm not going with this game, I want to see exactly how that happened. Mm-hmm. But it takes us back to the original trilogy setting, which, at this point I was clamoring for. I thought it was very interesting to see a Phoenix Wright who I'm not sure exactly how long it was after Trials and Tribulation. But
seems like, based on how he said he was a pianist for longer than he was an attorney, I think it was like a year after.
It was less than you guys want to know a fun fact about Ace Attorney timelines? Okay. I'm getting so excited because this is nerdy. Okay.
Basically, when Ganondorf dies, Phoenix is sent at this timeline.
We enter into the Phoenix as a pianist timeline. Okay, so the first game takes place in 2016. The second game takes place in 2017. The third game takes place in 2018 and into 2019. The thing is that the game takes Apollo Justice. The final trial only takes place a couple of months after the Trials and Tribulations final trial. But they assume that it's 2018 and not 2019 like it should be. So there's actually a year missing in the Phoenix Wright timeline. It's just gone.
Boy. Yeah. Gotta seal Dracula in that solar eclipse. Gonna get that Julius Belmont game. Waiting for it.
So I'm on the Phoenix Wright Wiki to just keep things clarified, and the date of Zach Gramarye's death is April 19th. So this is months after the end of Trials and Tribulation.
Well, he's developed a lot of confidence between them, but still, I like to see.
It's out of character.
Based off what we've seen in the original trilogy, I agree, but between then and Apollo Justice, I think it's refreshing to see Phoenix Wright with this level of confidence because, after Trials and Tribulation, I mean, you've seen it all at that point.
Yeah. I love how he's like...
You're a hardened lawyer.
He's like, I got to deal with another one of these greenhorn hotshot prosecutors, whatever.
Yeah, and Clavier was being a bit of a dick for, being so green in the prosecutor bench, and I'd be annoyed, too. Mm-hmm. So I'm with Phoenix, and where, it's a Saturday. I'm supposed to be home. Let's wrap this up.
I'm not supposed to be here.
It felt like it tinged into arrogance as well, and that was the same kind of thing with Gumshoe as well. He didn't feel like he was written quite right, and I know he's only there for 5 minutes just because look, old characters, oh my gosh, but it didn't feel right. And you want to know what definitely doesn't look right? 32-bit sprites next to Clavier's gorgeously animated.
Yes. I was really...
Yes, right.
I'll be honest, because the judge is just so separate, I didn't quite notice that the judge didn't get a new sprite until you had pointed out to me, Ted. But I immediately noticed with Phoenix, I'm like, oh, no. We have this gorgeous sprite of him as a bum. Give us a gorgeous sprite of him in his classic look.
Yeah, think about how cool that would have been, too, with not only... redrawn Phoenix sprites in the Apollo Justice quality, but also remixed, because they bring back Ace Attorney 1 music. Mm-hmm. If they had, which is nice to hear, I will admit.
Yes.
But if they had remixed that with the better instruments, that would have been gorgeous, too. So, yeah, it's a missed opportunity, and...
Take a shot.
Okay, but, not only that...
I can't feel my face.
It's just so frustrating when you have to present the forged page, not only in the don't do it, don't go in there, the killer's gonna be in there kind of horror movie kind of way, but there's no reason why he has to present it. And Phoenix isn't dumb enough to just present any random thing that he gets when he doesn't need to. It just...
Yeah, and a very infuriating part about that is that he gets the page from a young Trucy, and it doesn't raise any red flags.
Yeah, it's like, how does she have this? And that's what was my thought when she gave the evidence to Apollo in the first case. It's like, how does she have this? And I kind of get it. He's desperate at that moment to try to fix it all, and it just lines up too well. Now, that choice came up, is present it now or don't, and I knew it. I figured it was a butt down must moment because he has to get this barred. But did you guys choose to not present it at that moment? Because I just went with it.
I have, and Clavier's just like, I know you've got it. You got to present it. And then it's just like, ha! I knew you forged evidence. And you're like, what?
So, no, objection.
Yeah. Okay, also, this is aggravating. Manfred von Karma presents forged evidence. He just gets a penalty. Phoenix presents forged evidence. He gets disbarred.
Well, nobody likes the defense. And
yes,
that's it's true. It's just it's so inconsistent.
I find that pretty consistent. how Phoenix gets treated and all that. Prosecutors are literal rock stars in this universe. And defense attorneys never get that kind of adulation other than being called ace. So I don't find that weird at all.
An explanation would have been nice. You want to know what else I hate about the flashback? Is Zach Ramirez is a gigantic asshole.
Oh,
as well. He is the worst. Have you, Derrick? When we're done, I need to link you to a Hi-Am Daisy comic called "Zach Ramirez is a Jerk."
I think somebody linked that to me, which is what. I read that, I was like, "Oh my god, they are completely right." All this stuff where he's a jerk, and that really, in retrospective, I know they're trying to present him as this sympathetic character that had to go in the Lamb and whatnot.
Oh, he's not.
And it's like
he's a murderer. No.
He's
you want to know what just doesn't make sense to me? Again, this is how Case 4 spoils Case 1. Why the hell is he trying to ruin Phoenix's job when he's the one providing for his daughter? Second of all, why is he trying to kill the goddamn waitress when things don't go his way? Why does he need to cheat? Why is he hiding the secret of the magic or whatever the hell it's called? I don't
for 7 years, like all the tricks of Magnifi.
Yeah, Magna. Yeah, and yeah, he's just an asshole, and I don't like him. I don't like him.
Then after 7 years, like, comes back, doesn't ask about daughter. Or, I want to trump your poker winning record.
Yeah,
and it's like, I do not like you at all.
No, it made no
Go away.
sense. I mean, it was like kind of a cool twist that that ended up being Shady. Like I said, in the moment, it's like, oh crap, Shady was actually Zach, and it's like, oh my god, that kind of thing. But then you look at it, it's like, why weren't you visiting your daughter? You come out of this, and the thing, obviously, Phoenix is a much better father to Trucy than Zach ever was.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Ted brought up. Another thing I don't really think about. He was caring for your daughter that you abandoned.
Yeah.
And you want to mess with him. You want to.
Let's be honest. Both of Trucy's parents aren't exactly good people, because
no.
I mean, okay, we'll get to the big twist here. Is that turns out Limbarar turns out to be her mother, and also is Apollo's mother, and that's Magnifi has this perception ability.
Right, Apollo's in this game.
Yeah, that's the only connection. This is why Apollo.
Hey, Lamvia is Apollo's mother, and they're he half sister with Trucy, which means nothing.
I'm
absolutely nothing in this game.
In this game, nothing. Like, they don't even tell him at the end. So I'm don't tell me this, because this feels like a big spoiler to me. But I hope they do something with that in Dual Destinies, and that's a no, because Ted can't keep a damn secret to save his life.
No, I'm awful.
But it's still like, okay, that's an interesting twist. But here's the other thing: why did Lammy decide to give up Apollo and return to the act? There was no reason. All she did was lose her husband.
All right, the fact that you have to ask that means they probably don't even bother giving it a passing line or anything. But
she has amnesia and she doesn't remember.
But she got amnesia from the gunshot from the Zach and I forget his Verdant.
Which is before she had Apollo in the first place, right?
Well, it was after she had Apollo.
Oh, you know what? I don't know, because maybe she just couldn't care for Apollo. She didn't have the funds.
Then take him with you as you go back to the troop.
Shut up.
That's the big thing that immediately stuck out to me. Is like, why did she abandon Apollo? Of course, we need to have that happen for this whole thing to happen, for Apollo to have the thing in the secret, brother sister. But it makes no sense. So just the Gramarys are terrible, terrible parents all around.
Yeah, and that's not even getting to Kristoff too. Like, again, it's everything's so all over the place in this finale is part of the thing. Like, there's 20,000 threads, and obviously a lot of them don't get filled either because they didn't have time or they just didn't care.
Not even mention by the second half of Case 4, it's on autopilot. Like, there's very little player interaction. You're just doing a lot of reading, like the gameplay itself.
Yeah, after you're done with the Mason system, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you present maybe 3 or 4 pieces of evidence in that final trial, and I think you might go a half hour, 45 minutes after finding Kristoff's little devil hand without doing anything but advancing text. And granted, these are visual novels, you're going to be doing a lot of reading, but part of what makes Ace Attorney so engaging is that you're figuring things out as you go. That's that's why for a long time I kind of considered them more point and click games than visual novels, but you're not doing anything in that final trial. You're listening to Kristoff and Clavier bicker until things kind of just resolve themselves.
Like Ace Attorney Super Guide.
Yeah, pretty much.
Going to give you the bronze attorney badge.
Yeah.
Or the cardboard one from...
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, yeah, Verdon's kind of a jerk, but you kind of also see where he's coming, because Magnifi obviously was not treating either of them right. Zach was a jerk. He stole the woman he loved, or anything. I don't even know how that works. And then he just didn't have the talent for it, and then he was like, oh, I was going to kill him anyway. But no, Magnifi decided to commit suicide instead, which, okay, granted. But I'll take the chance to pin this on Zach. And then the one way that they try to show that Zach is a good person is, even though he screws Vernon out of this magic trick, he he admits that he's the one that did it, even though that's not the truth. Just so Vernon could have a career. But he immediately ruins that career by getting him locking him out of the Gramarye tricks.
Yes.
So, like I said, I knew this would happen. Like, I was okay and enjoyed it in the moment, but I had a feeling, like, as soon as we started talking about this, my opinion, like, as we started unraveling this case and seeing how this all happened, it just lowers that opinion, and that's a shame, because there's, again, missed potential. There's so much that could have gone right with this thing.
You could see the glimmers.
Yes.
And you could piece together how these glimmers could make Apollo Justice a really good Ace Attorney game, but they don't do it, and it's for very stupid reasons.
Oh, like how the main villain is the main villain because he lost a game of poker?
Holy shit. I'm sorry. I know it's Game Explain. I have to keep it peachy.
No, that's all right.
I can't help it.
Ted's already dropped the F-bomb twice.
That's right. Can we talk about the worst motivation ever in the entire series?
At least it wasn't just a poker game. It was the fact that he wanted the fame. If it was just a poker game, I would kind of get it. But because it's the entire fame thing, like, this is his ticket to being a superstar.
He picked a different lawyer.
It's just like that.
I mean, Ted said it the best in our retrospective. He picked a different lawyer. I must kill everyone. What a crock of shit. I just have to say that. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
The thing, yeah, because he didn't really kill anybody in that one. He just screwed over Phoenix, and then he started going on his killing spree to keep his job.
My thing is, when you think back to the original Ace Attorney game, why Manfred would ultimately kill Edgeworth's father because he put a blight on his perfect record, which, can we agree, is just as petty.
Oh, yeah.
It's built up more, though, is the thing. Like,
that's the thing.
It's because you don't get anything from Kristoff in the middle of the game at all. And even through the first half of Case 4, he's not even there. And even through most of the Mason system, even he's barely there.
No,
You don't know anything about Kristoff. And when you try to know something about Kristoff, they throw the screw you Black Cyclops there. It's just like, we couldn't write an interesting motivation. So we're going to pretend we have one and hide that pretend motivation behind some black fancy Cyclops.
Yeah.
Well, you break those Black Cyclops, and it's a message from Capcom, put Phoenix right in this game. It's like,
but yeah, you're totally right. Manfred totally had this build up. You got this sense of how he had to be perfect, how he drilled into oh god, I'm blanking on the name, and I feel so bad about that.
Francisca?
No, well, both Francisca and
Miles?
Edgeworth, thank you. I don't know why I blanked on Edgeworth's name, but I feel awful about that. But yeah, how he just built into Edgeworth that you have to be perfect at all time. You have to have this spotless record. And Manfred just had this truly intimidating persona to him. Like,
I think that if they had, like, because they don't want to just do Von Karma again, and I understand that you don't want to just do Von Karma again, and you could have made Kristoff interesting in a different way, like, I don't know, like maybe build up more on the fact that he's a sociopath. I guess this is why I think Kristoff needed to have more time with Kristoff than what you got, in order for not only for there to be some like kind of like, oh, I liked him, but he's a criminal, and having that conflicted stuff. You need to understand how he works in order for his motivations to make sense.
Something real simple that I just thought of right now. So, okay, He wants fame. That's what Christoph wants. He wants to be this well-known lawyer. And there's obviously some friction between him and Clavier. Clavier is famous because of his band as well as being a prosecutor. Yet Christoph has this air of superiority over him. That could be a inferiority complex because this was his ticket to become as famous as his younger brother, who he feels is not deserved because he's just in a band. And this trial would have been his ticket to that fame that he desired, and also create that rift, create this sort of a reasoning between the two brothers and how they work together, and get some drama out of that in some way, because they do make it well known that the Gaviners were a thing during that trial, that first trial. Yeah. Immediately, boom. You work in
There's
all of them and have a much.
That took you how long? Yeah. That took you how long? A minute?
There's 1,000 ways you could have written together, and I'm sure it makes for some very interesting fan fiction.
Oh, fan fiction for this game must be amazing.
Yeah. It's just irritating in the sense that it could. That's, I think, the biggest thing about Apollo Justice is it's irritating. Because you know you can see the cracks so easily, and you want to just put some glue in there to fix it, but you can't. And
well, it's a digital game; you get it all messed up. DS and
that wouldn't work. Yeah, that wouldn't quite work. But real quick, I just thought of this. But you were giving me heck for Brushel. How I actually enjoyed him.
Oh, he's obnoxious.
Oh, he's obnoxious, but I love his
He's gross.
Yeah, but that's funny.
He's unclean.
He was. I mean, he has such a weird head. I love the way he tied his face up and just got it all bent out of shape. And they're having fun with the end quote stuff. I don't know. He was a fun kind of witness to me, and I enjoyed him.
No one other than SpongeBob SquarePants should brush their eyeballs. I'm sorry.
I love that. Just him having this random toothbrush, going on his tongue, brushing on his glasses and all that stuff. I don't know. He was weird and, as you said, gross, but I kind of liked him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, freak.
Freak. What do you think of him, Johnny? I'm guessing you more agree with Ted.
He was just another witness to me.
Yeah. I don't think he stands out above any other witness, but he was also. I just enjoyed him.
Yeah, he had a character quirk, no different than a lot of other witnesses in the Ace Attorney series work, and it was okay. I didn't like how perceiving him was gross.
Yeah,
but
I was looking at his eyes and stuff, and I'm like,
that's about it. His eyes, the first thing you see is his mouth.
Oh yeah, the mouth. His mouth is gross. Oh gosh, and then how they describe him, how he had this sweet, sickly sweet scent of mint. Like, that's supposed to be refreshing that they still were able to make it gross, but again, he stuck out to me.
He probably smells like breath mints, like after dinner breath mints. That's probably all he eats.
Altoids.
So, yeah.
Wait, Altoids are a real thing? I thought that they were just like boxes that girls kept like hair clips in and stuff. I didn't know that they were like an actual mint.
Yeah,
Altoid mints. They're
mints.
curiously strong.
Just use the tin afterwards.
I've never seen anybody eating the mints. I've seen the cases all over the place, but
oh boy. But yeah, I mean, this just goes to show. I mean, I guess again, because of the things they just missed out on doing, Clavier just ended up being a very uninteresting prosecutor in the end, and it just, like I said, it is great in the moment. You get really pulled into it, how you go back into the past, how you see what happened to Phoenix, how all this stuff is going on, and you're just sort of like, especially when I'm in the middle of a story, I just go with things. I process things afterwards and just sort of like, oh, that's cool, and let's keep going and see what happens next. That's just always how I kind of been. But looking back at it, that's when it just sort of flops in its own way. But I don't think it's I still think Case 3 is worse, and
Oh, no doubt.
Because there's still interesting things about this case. Like the solving the murders themselves is interesting. Like I love how it was kind of fascinating how Kristoff's murder spree just started 7 years late.
Yeah, like the case makes much more sense. Okay, the murder scheme makes much more sense, I think, is the thing. And again, like we were talking, there is merit to be found in kind of trying to deconstruct what they could have done. Like, at least that's interesting in its own way. There really isn't much, like, we couldn't really even find anything to pull out of, like, this is how you could make it good from Case 3. It was just kind of, this doesn't make sense at all. So, it's just, you know, as a longtime fan of this series, Case 4 sometimes infuriates me more because it leads to some of the things that are like Phoenix forging evidence, or, you know, him being cut off from his friends for 7 years and things like that, which just kind of, which when you grow as attached to these characters, really, you know, it's just like, you feel, when Phoenix gets cheated, you feel like you get cheated as well. So, yeah.
And I totally get that. And you've built up a connection with these characters over years, because I assume that you were playing these in time, so you know, just because of you had that connection with them and played it multiple times, and it builds up more for you than it did for me just going straight through.
Ted's an Ace Attorney fan?
I never knew.
No, I'm a poser this entire time. I don't even like Ace Attorney.
I'd imagine it's no different than, it's going to sound a little off, but how Alien fans, you know, you grew up with the first film, you got Aliens, which made Sigourney Weaver a major badass, you got these beloved characters, and then by Alien 3, they're all dead. And Ripley... Yeah, you know what I mean. It has to be something like that, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Going into Apollo Justice after playing Trials and Tribulation.
Yeah, it takes these established things and just does what feels wrong with them. And I get it. I do. But I still can't say I dislike the game. It has issues, but I think it's well enough. Like, if I had to give it one of our scores, I probably would give it a like, because I still would have been invested enough in everything and, you know, enjoyed it as it was. It has issues, but the gameplay is solid enough and the story is pure popcorn fluff. Don't think about this at all. Just go with it.
I just, for stuff like this with especially story-based games, a bad ending can spoil the entire thing for me, unfortunately. And I know that was actually something that happened with Spirit of Justice, where I did like that game for the most part up until about the halfway point, and then the ending just kind of soured me on the whole thing. And it's a similar kind of thing with Apollo Justice, where there's stuff to like hidden throughout, but unfortunately the ending in particular just... You know, I didn't like it, and then in Apollo Justice more so, because the first case and the fourth case are so connected plot-wise, it's a little bit magnified because of that, but it's just, you know, I'm thinking back upon it, and it's just like, yeah, that would have been cool, but the ending blew it, and I don't know, maybe that's just something that happens with just me, personally, but I have a hard time getting over a bad ending. Oh, I'm sure I'm not
Ted's
the only
one in the entire world who would dare have something to say like that.
Yeah, I totally get you, though. A bad ending can really sour a lot of things, but I don't know. There are certain things that just that I do genuinely enjoy about this game, but its plot is not one of its strong suits, and I know that's a majority of the game, but
yeah, that's why I can't be as generous as you're being right now. Because a story is everything in an Ace Attorney game.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there is always a joy in, you know, investigating this, breaking cyc locks, when you present the right piece of evidence, you know you're right when you hit objection and the music stops. Yes, I'm doing something right. I was right on the nose with that one. That's all fun. But the reason why you want to continue doing that is because you enjoy how things are proceeding and you want more of it. But with Apollo Justice, it was a slog. if it's not bad, it's confusing. And again, so many, take a shot, missed opportunities that you can easily find alternative ways to make it make sense, like Derrick just did about 10 minutes ago. It felt like it shouldn't have been this hard to have logical write-arounds to the issues we have with this game. And again, as Ted said a few 20 minutes ago, that's right, Apollo's in this game. Where's Apollo? He's not in this game at all. I mean, he is our. I mean, in some way, I guess you can use him as a player avatar, no different than how like Link was supposed to represent that in the Zelda series. But you know, Phoenix was able to do that in the original trilogy and be his own thing, and we loved him for that. It's the reason why we hate seeing him disbarred at the beginning of this game. But they didn't do that with Apollo, and it's just really odd how like this game's title is misleading.
Yeah.
Now, Apollo could be taken out almost entirely, and it wouldn't be that much. It wouldn't be that much different. Like if they had changed the game so that it's just like maybe Phoenix had been like given some kind of different kind of lawyer penalty or something. I don't know, but was still able to be in court. It would have been the same exact story, 100%. Yeah. I mean, granted, I don't think that it's a complete waste, because I do think that there are some really good character moments with Apollo in Dual Destinies. Like, I think that they found something for the character to do in that game. I felt like he developed a much more discernible personality in Dual Destinies, where I found him very bland in Apollo Justice. Like, he didn't really have anything unique about him other than he shouted a lot. Whereas in Dual Destinies, you really got the sense that he was like kind of like tired of everybody's shit all the time.
The impact of this game ultimately doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, as you find out as early as Dual Destinies. We're gonna have a separate discussion about that later down the road, but the whole thing with the Mason system, the jury system, completely forgotten about by the beginning of
I knew that wouldn't show up again. That just wasn't happening, because that's the whole thing with the Mason system also, is like at the very end it's up to the player to decide, like, what do I want, the good ending or do I want the bad ending? Gee, I wonder which.
I accidentally pressed guilty the first time I played.
as Phoenix, right. You're developer of the Mason system. I think it's only right that people make a fair assessment and make the decision for themselves to choose their own verdict. Pick not guilty. It's not her. Pick not guilty.
Also, this directly affects your children and family.
Yeah.
Phoenix stacks. Fair. You see, Lammy isn't the only one in the jury. Who else is in the jury is Maya, Pearl, Gumshoe,
and Mr. Hat.
Mr. Hat. It's something else, but yeah, I didn't even bother with seeing the bad ending. I figured just like everybody's life is hell.
Oh, it's boring.
Oh, it's depressing as hell.
Oh, is it?
But it's not even as interesting as the Miracle Never Happened ending from Justice for All. It's just like you get text and it's just like, she was in a coma.
If that's your choice, she died in her sleep, and that's all she wrote. But it's so obviously one-sided. I see why they dropped it. I'm glad they dropped it by Dual Destinies. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered pretty much all the major points of Apollo Justice. But I will say, if you enjoy this game, good. I'm glad you can find enjoyment in it. I mean, we don't always have to see eye to eye on everything. That's your right as a player and enjoying different stories. But this is, I have to agree with Ted and Johnny in that this is a much weaker game and it easily falls apart the closer you look at it, and that's a problem. I
think it looks good. I think it sounds amazing, but that's not everything in an Ace Attorney game.
Nope. Unfortunately, it does not carry it very far. Exactly. You said it perfectly.
Yeah, there you go. That's my review.
Yeah.
I've got nothing.
I'm speechless at this point. Yeah, it's. I can see what they were trying to do because it was kind of cool to go back to those old times and go back into Phoenix's boots and have those callbacks and everything else like that, but it just didn't quite succeed. And the thing is, I'm still excited to play through Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice. I still think that these can be a lot of fun, and it's been interesting. Like don't have much of a sense of Athena yet, but it's been interesting meeting her already, and boy, it's interesting going into 3D models.
I like Athena. I think seeing what you're going to think about Dual Destinies will be very interesting, because I think from this point on, the main series games are now being done by the team that did the Investigations games on the DS, so Shu Takumi is no longer involved. He went on to do Ghost Trick and then DGS, so he's gone, sadly. I miss him. But, you know what, John, you need to play Ghost Trick so we can do a Ghost Trick discussion.
I still haven't played it since we did the retrospective, and I want to. I've been meaning to.
I would love to replay that again because it was a lot of fun. Like when I still had GameFly, I rented that because I heard so many good things. I enjoyed the hell out of that game, but I would need to play it again to remember all the specifics.
Yeah, it's a similar feel, but a completely different kind of game, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's still like a lot of text, but it's still kind of endearing characters.
Especially
it's good.
Especially in the ending. You can now that I've played the Ace Attorney's games, experiencing the ending and thinking back to how it all wrapped up in Ghost Trick, I'm like, oh yeah, this is totally by the same writer.
Yeah.
They have that same sort of way of handling things. But yeah, next up is Dual Destinies, and I'm excited for it. We got a brand new defense attorney, and who knows what we're up to. And we have DLC, which I've been informed that I need to play after Case 2, which I will be doing that. And then...
Well, that's chronologically when it takes place. You can play it whenever.
I'm still going to play it after...
The DLC case is the best case in the game.
Oh, really? Well, we'll see how it all goes.
In my opinion, anyway.
Oh boy, but yeah, that's I guess all I really have to say about Apollo Justice. Nothing else is really coming to mind, but yeah, I want to thank you guys both again for joining me for these discussions, and not sure how long it'll be until I get to Dual Destinies, but we're making progress, and of course we'll be able to talk to Spirit of Justice and see exactly what it is about the ending that you did not like, Ted, because I am curious about that.
Yeah, basically.
Oh boy, but that's for another time. But any final thoughts between you guys, or you're pretty much done?
I'm pretty much spent at this point. I'm just looking forward to the Dual Destinies conversation whenever we can get to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, I think that covers it for our Apollo Justice discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameExplain. And Ted, where can they find you at?
I'm a member of BrainScratch Commentaries. We do talks on a number of different video games. We've done our own Ace Attorney Retrospective, which is a couple of years old, so unfortunately it doesn't include things like Investigations 2 or Spirit of Justice, but it's still there if you want to listen. We did a commentary on the Ace Attorney movie, which is one of my favorites. One of my favorite things that we've done, so you could check that out as well. And yeah, we do all sorts of cool stuff, so you should give it a watch.
Cool. And Johnny?
As always, you can find me on my main review channel, youtube.com/SomeCallMeJohnny. At the time of this upload, I'm probably just wrapping up the Star Fox Marathon with Star Fox Command on the DS and Star Fox Zero on the Wii U. And then afterwards, I'm heading back to the Sonic series with Sonic Boom, Fire, and Ice. And I'm going to spend some time with some handheld Sonic adventures, because why not? I like Sonic, I think.
You go back and forth.
Yeah.
The life of a Sonic fan.
When you go faster than the speed of light, all that's left is darkness.
Oh, alright. And of course, stay tuned to Game Explain for more on Ace Attorney and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.